For me, it's every time someone, mostly women, asks me to help them lift or carry something. Whenever I pick it up, I flex my arms. I have really defined arms, and they're my favorite physical feature on myself. Whenever I flex them, I always get a compliment, so I do it purposely just to help with that ego boost. It's super douchey and eye-rolling, but meh, we all deserve a boost every now and then. Story 1. If someone's shopping cart is in the middle of the aisle, making it obvious that the person doesn't have common courtesy or spatial awareness, I'll just hit it with my cart and push it out of the way. Story 2. I ride a Harley Sportster and I love wearing my leather vest, jeans, and boots. I look like a complete jackass. I am 5 feet 2 inches tall, 25-year-old male, working a desk job, and I dress like that and ride the smallest version of the smallest Harley. Story 3. I'll use my bus to completely block in cars that block where I need to load a wheelchair. Pull up about 2 inches from their mirror, then deploy the ramp in front of their car. Story 4. When people take more than half a second to find the word they are looking for, I will jump in with the most logical word for the context of our conversation. I do understand that this is rude and have been making an effort to not do that. Story 5. How absolutely aggravated I get cheering when I watch sports or just support anyone really. I'm usually pretty mild-mannered, but I go full hockey bro when I'm cheering someone on. Whole lot of set the tone and let's go, usually followed up by let's go boys, let's get it done. Story 6. Use the summon feature of my Tesla, which makes it come to my location in a parking lot. Completely unnecessary. A much slower process than walking to the car. Very, very obnoxious. Story 7. I like to have a civil and polite debate on Reddit, but the second someone attacks me personally instead of attacking my argument, I aim to destroy them in any way possible. My victory conditions are either having them delete their comments or receiving a Reddit cares message. Come at me, bro. Middle school debate champion here. Story 8. In college, I had a six-pack, unfortunately not anymore, so anytime I wasn't in class, I had my shirt off, especially when I knew I was going to be around girls. Anytime there was a knock on my door, I would check through the peephole, and if it was a girl, I would take my shirt off before opening the door. It is so cringe in hindsight, but I was a college boy with one thing on my mind. I actually did get laid a couple of times doing that. Story 9. I redline my car almost daily. It's not even a sports car. I just like the sound of 3.7 liters. I'll also spin the back tires when it's raining when a red light turns green. It's purely just for me for kicks and giggles. Sometimes when I drop my wife off at work, I'll drift a bit in her work parking lot to the front door. It annoys her every time. Story 10. I am a pretty selfless guy everywhere I go, except on planes. Then, I am that person who won't swap seats for split-up couples for anything less than an upgrade to first class. I won't even swap to an equal seat, because equal is insufficient. I selected and paid for my seat, and I am sitting in it. I can't be bothered to get up even if the seat is equal. It's a pain to be asked, and I don't care if you are separated. Your relationship will survive a few hours apart. You want to sit together? Book seats together. You did and got unlucky? Not my problem to solve. Also, I won't help people lift their luggage in or out of the bins. If you can't lift it, don't travel with it. And I won't chat. Just because we are next to each other doesn't mean we have to talk. Story 11. Whenever I'm playing video games and do really well, I'll swing my chair to the right and flex my arms. The lighting is amazing and makes me look incredibly muscular because I truly am. Story 12. I don't do this to a massive extent, but pretty girls get a bit more leeway with me. Obviously, that doesn't mean I'm rude to girls who aren't my type, and I don't let girls who are get away with anything serious, but I do more for them. Story 13. I once helped a lady by putting her luggage overhead in a train and accidentally dropped it on another woman sitting underneath. It's quite humiliating to this day. In my defense, the train gave a sudden jerk at that time. Story 14. After seeing somebody try to just walk away after their dog just pooped, loudly, but overly friendly, "Hey, you out of bags to pick that up? Here, I've got some extras." Yeah, I hate running out of bags too. That's why I always carry extras. then continue the conversation while they pick it up. Anyways, thanks for being a good community member. Have a great day. I don't own a dog. Story 15. Whenever someone is acting like a tough guy, I make a point to find a really blunt or really passive-aggressive way to show them I'm not impressed or intimidated. It just depends on the individual, the situation, or the audience. I don't personally find myself to be a tough guy nor a pushover, but I hate posturing at my age, 38, and especially among other men well into adulthood. I could just ignore it and let these guys have their little fantasy and keep their ego, but my inner jerk will not allow it. It's caused me a lot of trouble at work. Story 16. In my country, by using public transport you agree to follow the rules of public transport. One such rule is to let people exit the vehicle, such as a tram, bus, or train, before entering. Some people don't do that and try to enter before I can exit. Then I just push through. Since I usually carry large bags, I tend to fill the entire door, so they are surprised they cannot just go in without pushing me or my bags. They stand around the doors, forming a small half circle around them, so only one person can leave the vehicle and then stop because there is a wall of people waiting to get in. They can't because people want to get off. These half circles are formed because all of the people waiting to get in just need to see inside. Just think. You don't need to see inside. There are seats and other people. You are blocking people from exiting. Another rule is that seats are for people, not for your bags, backpacks, or purses. Especially on the morning train I sometimes use, half the seats are occupied by bags, while people are crowded in the small spaces near the doors, making it very difficult to enter or exit. I make it a point to bother someone to put their bag away so I can sit. I wonder when I'll become the disgruntled grandpa who loudly complains to the whole crowd, annoying everyone with my yaps. Story 17. I have a disabled parking badge, and it really irks me when people park in spaces without one. So I'll park right on the edge of the yellow box and block their doors. Story 18. There's a different way to spell my name. If somebody emails me at work, bearing in mind that my email address is firstname.last name, and they spell my name wrong, then I deliberately spell their name wrong when I reply to them. Story 19. In public transport, I despise people who cannot wait to enter if there are still people leaving through the door, so I will fully shoulder those people out of the way when I walk out. Story 20. I do not wait for people's food to get to the table to eat. I will chow down in your face. I need to eat. If your food got there first, I'd expect you to do the same. Story 21. Make controversial, hour-long podcast videos. Wait for a morality YouTuber to call me out, and when they do, make a video showing my controversial points. Then, file a copyright claim on their video so I get all the ad revenue. Story 22. Back in school, I bullied a boy and girl to tears. I apologized and feel guilty, and both the boy and girl are friends with me now and have forgiven me. The man I bullied back in school is one of my closest friends. It made me feel more guilty when he told me what he was going through as a child at his house. Bullying isn't okay. I've been on both ends, and because I have empathy, seeing the boy and girl I made cry really made me feel terrible. Even a decade and a half later, I still feel guilty for it. Even if both the man and woman I picked on forgave me and seemed to really like me, the fact I feel guilt shows me that I have empathy. I've never bullied anyone else since. If I don't like someone, I mostly just ignore them. Story 23. I am fairly liberal, but drive a lifted truck and am physically fit and muscular. I am not trying to prove anything or compensate for anything, just happen to like going to the gym and driving a truck. I always liked Tonka trucks and Stompers toys as a kid, and wanted to look like the Lou Ferrigno Incredible Hulk. I am aware of the optics I present but do not care what people think. Story 24. I refuse to make eye contact with pretty much all women unless they catch my fancy. I just kind of pretend most all people are non-playable characters until it becomes apparent they are main characters. The fact I even said this tells me I need serious therapy. Story 25. I have no trees in the front of my property, but the leaves collect on my stairs. I wait for a windy day and sweep them onto the sidewalk and curb so they blow away. Could I sweep and bag them instead? Yeah, but they are not my trees. Story 26. When I don't get any sleep, I become a different person. I lash out over the smallest irritation, which no one ever deserved. I've gotten better at it over time, and that doesn't happen as often anymore. Story 27. If I'm the only person at a red light on a two-lane road and somebody gets in the left lane, I always floor it on the green light. If you're so impatient, you're going to need to earn it, buddy. Story 28. I like to check my muscles out in the mirror. I worked really hard to be proud of how I look. It wasn't many years ago when I wasn't happy with the body I saw in the reflection. I had a girlfriend who used to say I was full of myself and narcissistic, but truthfully, it had only been maybe a year or so ago that I was overweight. Seeing abs in my reflection almost always shocked me. I was proud. I had worked so hard. Now I have a lovely girlfriend who says I am her big, sexy, strong man, and that makes me feel pretty good. Story 29. If someone is walking towards me, eyes glued to their phone and not paying attention to where they are going, I will straight up shoulder check the hell out of them, with the exception of kids. Story 30. I ask people ridiculously dumb, obvious questions on purpose just to see what they will say. I've been doing this for decades, so I'm pretty good at it. I keep a straight face and have them completely convinced I'm seriously asking them that question because I really don't know the answer. For example, my former partner and I were walking around one day. A guy walked by in a Bo Jackson Raiders jersey. I casually said, "Oh, I didn't know Michael Jackson also used to play football." Then I quickly changed the subject back to what we were talking about. I could literally see her brain breaking for a good 10 seconds while she tried to process that. Story 31. If I encounter a rude person and I am not at work, regardless of whether they are being rude to me or someone else, I drive by, fart, or belch at them, the louder the better. Story 32. I unapologetically lean out my window while in the carpool line and tell parents who are walking their kids between moving vehicles instead of using the crosswalk to set a better example for their children. Story 33. I removed the stock exhaust from one of my motorcycles to make it louder. This was all because my neighbor was rude to my wife and is too scared to confront me. Story 34. Occasionally, I will just let the door go when I'm holding it for someone. Usually when they're walking too slowly or I just don't care to be the polite person anymore. One time, a heavier door pushed against the person because she decided to try and squeeze by before the door shut instead of grabbing the handle. She gave me a dirty look, and I grinned. She was walking slowly, so I moved on. When I let the door go, she tried sprinting to fit in the gap. Story 35. Respectful everywhere. However, when in the sheets, I'm the most misogynistic person. I'll degrade someone so much that they'll ask me if I meant what I said. Sometimes I mean it. I apologize for being a degenerate. Story 36. I don't correct them if they are doing something blatantly wrong without troubleshooting. I didn't say anything to my coworker when they called information technology because their mouse wasn't working, which was the mouse for the next computer. Story 37. In Toronto, when people stand in and around the subway doors at any of the major interchanges, I will purposely walk through them as if they are not even there. If they have a phone in their hand, I will try to knock it with a shoulder or backpack if possible. Get out of the way of a train full of people. Story 38. I am 45 years old and often explain how things work to people who don't seem to care or even vaguely listen. I am very curious and always need to understand. When I think someone doesn't understand, I feel like I need to explain it. It makes me feel bad afterward. Story 39. When someone's shopping cart is blocking the aisle, if they're not around, I grab the cart by both sides, pick it up, and move it straight to the side. Also, when people are walking on the wrong side of the aisle or decide to come right at me, I act distracted and bump into them. Most times I don't acknowledge them, even if they say anything, but I've had a few women mention gender, and a few men and women mention race. I just say, rules of the hallway. Stay to your right. Story 40. I read stupid or boastful tweets from the opposition or its supporters and annoy them completely in the comments. I press the outrageous button and read their cringeworthy comebacks. Not gonna lie, I triggered the hate meter a few times, and now I have to roast them using scientific words that no one can understand. Story 41. First, congrats on having toned arms. It requires a lot of work, and you deserve to flex them. For me, I love doing math in my head, and I have found that it is a quality many people see as a mark of intelligence. To be honest, it is not that hard. You just memorize the basic tables and apply a couple of tricks, and voila, some people find it amusing. Lastly, I said, well, a German doctor of philosophy is not awarded to dumb people precisely. Total douche. Story 42. I ski backwards down green runs pretty much all of the time. I can do that better than most of the people on them can ski forwards. This is not for my own amusement. I do not enjoy skiing green runs, but sometimes you need to take one to get where you want to go. I love to ski backwards, but I don't quite have the confidence to ski a black run switch for more than a turn or two. On blues, it's not me, it's other people. I'm not risking a collision when I have a blind spot like that, and so many people don't know how to ski in traffic. There have probably been some dads who have told their wives I'm rude for skiing switch near their kids, but I'm never within 10 feet, and it takes me about half a second to turn around if needed, which is a standing stop half the time on green runs. At that slow speed, it is easy to see in all directions. Story 43. Whenever someone tells me something I already know, I always let them know I already knew. Oh, hey, did you know that? Something. Yeah, I know. Which sounds cocky, even though I don't mean it to be. One of the things I try to avoid saying. Story 44. I'm a pretty impatient driver. Not like showing off or entitled parking, but more in the sense that I'm extremely impatient and speed a lot. Slow, hesitant drivers fill me with rage like nothing else. People cruising on the inside lane can just leave. I used to get annoyed with UK and European drivers until I visited North America. You guys have massive roads and no spatial awareness. It felt like most people on the road were doing some sort of calculation to minimize the chance of being overtaken. According to my calculations, the most optimal driving technique is to maneuver about in this wide lane, and if he moves into oncoming traffic to overtake me, then I'll just press the accelerator. It was pretty hilarious driving down narrower streets in Mexico, seeing people crawling at 2 miles per hour even though it would be considered a regular-sized street in Europe. You don't need 8 feet of clearance, what in the world?